What do you do when you are Toyota and you have something to celebrate? Well, then you build this. This is the Toyota Supra. And Toyota is a brand that is active in many forms of motorsport. One of them is GT4 racing. This is the Toyota Supra GT4 Special Edition because they're very successful in the GT4 racing and they built some special dedicated car for that. This is the road-going normal celebration version that you can get in that lineup. My name is Peter and in this video I'm going to take you around this Toyota Supra and we're going to find out together what it's all about. We start here on the front with the color, which is plasma orange. There you go. I hope it comes across well on camera. And obviously this being the limited edition extra chunky special version, you got some nice accents like the black lip spoiler over here. You got a spoiler on the back. You got special 19-inch matte black wheels on this version, all to make it look even more engaging and hardcore and so on. There's a few mistakes here and there because in order to make it look even more hardcore, they have these fake vents here. There's fake vents over here. There's some in the rear as well. All fake. They don't really do anything at all, except supposedly to look hardcore or anything. I think that's a mistake. Either make them functional or don't put them there at all. But that's just me. Here down the side, obviously we can see the Supra shape following the classic sports car recipe. Big engine in the front, long hood, small driver compartment in the middle, rear wheel drive and a big wing on the back. It's very classic, very Supra. I say that on purpose because underneath this is obviously just a BMW Z4. Toyota has collaborated with BMW to make this car, especially to make the 2-liter turbo version. This is the 3-liter, by the way. I'm not going to go into a whole narrative on that collaboration and how it's not a real Supra or it is, and that whole discussion. I don't think that's the point of this review. I think we can just celebrate the car as it is right here. I really like the shape here from the side. I think it looks cool, the stance is cool. All around the car, it's a good looking car from every angle, especially in this plasma orange. Here you can also quite see the dual tone theme with the black underneath and then the black around the window. I think it's good looking. I think it's a cool looking car. You can see some more fake vents here. You got this sculpted bumper with the two big exhausts on each side. The GR logo, obviously, Gazoo Racing responsible for developing this car. Also the department responsible for the GR Yaris, for example. So you know this car means business. Business obviously also with this big wing. Not so big that you'll go racing with it, but definitely big enough to sort of fit the profile and the shape of the car. Now this is obviously not a car you're going to buy for practicality, fuel consumption and comfort and so on, but there are some creature comforts available. It has a boot. Being a BMW Z4 underneath, that car also has a boot. This one has no button on the outside for it though. There's nothing here except the backup camera, so you can't open it from here. You actually have to use a button on the dashboard or you have to use the key. So I'll use the key in this case. It plops. There's also no handle here to open it, so you either got to put your fingers underneath or just open it with the wing. And then you have 290 liters of boot capacity, which is not a lot. You get the same in the Kia Picanto, but it is usable. I mean, you can see I got a big backpack in here and we got some jackets for me and the camera woman. You know, it's enough for a weekend away with you and your secret lover, or, you know, your racing gear or whatever you put in there. So it's still usable, but again, this is not the reason you're going to buy this car. Sitting here inside the Toyota Supra, it is very much business-like. Obviously, as soon as you get in, you sit low, you sit in these bucket seats, you have the chunky steering wheel with the long bonnet in front of you. Yeah, you really immediately feel like, yes, it's time to attack. So that's cool and very well judged, I think. It's a very much obviously a driver-focused car, and there's a lot of little touches. For example, I sit down and immediately the gear stick is in the same position of my hand. It's in the same spot. So that's excellent. Once you find a good spot here, all those controls are right at your fingertips. Also the pedals, feels really nice. It almost feels cocooned inside the car right away. Obviously that's due to the lack of space in general because it's a small car in here with 1.83 m and about 90 kilos. That's about it, what you can fit in this car. I think if you're a lot taller than me, that's not going to fit, and I have no room for my left elbow and the right elbow is compromised if I have a passenger as well. So, you know, it's not a spacious car. My knees hit the sides. So if you're a large person, this is probably not for me. But it does add to that sort of cocooned feeling that you get. Obviously in here it is all BMW stuff. So anything from the buttons to the infotainment screen to the driver's display, it's all BMW. There's no way around that. But I'll show you around the cabin. We got a little bit of piano black here for no reason. Also traditional window and mirror controls. Nice. Next to the steering wheel we have a cluster of light buttons. So, you know, no switch or rotary thingy, just actual buttons. And the same thing goes for the steering wheel. Some buttons here for your media controls and your cruise control and so on the driver's display. Traditional stalks for your indicators and your wipers. So very much analog there. Through the steering wheel, the BMW display that has a few graphic options like showing your navigation, arrows and so on, but yeah, that is really not up to modern standards anymore. And the same can be said for the central infotainment screen. It's tiny to begin with, and as you can see here, going through this, it's all very functional, don't get me wrong, but it is certainly not the last word in speed and fluidity, which is fine. You know, you don't buy this car for its infotainment system, but okay. The screen, by the way, you can operate with your hands like I showed, but there's also the BMW iDrive system down here, or whatever they call it these days, so you can operate this way as well with some shortcut buttons and so on. Which is nice, especially while driving. It's always annoying to have to swipe through things, and it's just easier when you're driving along. And it's just like the gear stick, your hand sort of naturally falls onto that rotary dial, so it's easy to operate that way. The analog theme continues with the ventilation. It's all manually adjustable, so that is nice too. And under here you have a set of quick keys. Obviously you can map those to anything you would like, from your radio stations to specific actions, so that's cool too. And a fully manual climate unit. So this is how you want it. I don't understand why we need to reinvent the wheel every other week and come up with a different solution for your Klima operations. This is all you need. It's small, it's elegant, it's simple, and everybody understands how this works. And most of all, you can operate this without looking at it. You can feel where the buttons are, and you can press them and be sure that you actually made a command to the system. So with those capacitive buttons, for example, you always have to look where it is, touch it, and then you have to look again to confirm that your touch was registered properly. This, you know what happened. Like you press this and you understand that the action has been done. So this is the way you want it, car makers, from now on. Below that we have a phone pad for your phone on top, but also underneath for your inductive charging. And thanks to this clip, your phone will not fly out all too much. We have a USB-A and a 12-volt socket here as well. So that is very exciting for all your charging needs, dash cams, GPS meters and so on. And then the analog gear stick, 6 speeds and a reverse, so that is really for the added driver feels and the connection to the car. The iDrive system I already mentioned. Here there's also a few driving buttons. You got a giant sport button, your parking sensors, you can turn the traction control off, and here you can also turn your start-stop off. And that's all surrounded by this carbon fiber glossy situation. I'm not 100% sure if it's real carbon fiber, but it looks real at least. And it's only here on the middle console and up here on the plaque where it says GT4 100th edition. So that is your carbon fiber needs met. We got 2 cup holders and a cubby over here, but you know, nothing really more than a garage clicker, and your keys will go in there. And if you see through here, you can look straight into the boot. So that's your boot space, and there's also 2 subwoofers behind the seats, and that is all you're gonna get. That's the interior of the car. Dark, very dark, but it's, yeah, like I said, very much driver focused. Cool to sit here and see that long bonnet with the sculptures in it. You see the rear wing permanently in your rear view mirror, so that's cool too. So yeah, it feels very much like a sports car, which is, I think, exactly what you want. But if you are a larger person, like I said, this is not going to be for you. So for the Toyota Supra, there are 2 engine choices. First of all, we have the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine with about 260 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque. And we have this 3-liter 6-cylinder motor, also with a turbo, twin scroll, with 340 horsepower and about 500 Newton meters of torque. Then we have 2 transmission options, the manual and the automatic. Obviously the automatic being a little bit faster if you want to go from 0 to 100. This is the manual option, but still you should be able to go well under 5 seconds. It's an engine that loves to rev. The maximum revs are over 7,000 when you put it in the sport setting, so it's nice. You can really use that engine, you get all the sound, all the noise inside the cabin, and it's really accessible power too because of the large rev band. So it's really exciting and engaging to drive, and especially this one, obviously with the manual option, you get even more engagement, we journalists like to say, because you have to shift gears yourself, and of course you have a clutch pedal. Obviously a little drive in this Supra, and currently we're on the highway, which by no means really is the natural habitat of this car. It's too loud, it's not comfortable enough, you sit too low, the view out, especially rearwards, is questionable. And that's immediately the downside of a car like this. It's that it doesn't really apply to the real world. It's too cumbersome in many ways, and it's not a place where you will enjoy your car a lot. So I'm looking at my thermometer now, and it's 5.5 degrees, and with 340 horsepower and 500 Newton meters on the rear axle, you got to start thinking about, are my tires warm? Is the traction control on? Is the road straight? It gets way too complicated in the real world. And that's immediately the problem I have as a car tester, because I had the same thing with the GR Yaris, for example, and even with the Land Cruiser to an extent. To really test this car, I'm going to need a racetrack, and I don't have access to a racetrack. And obviously also my own shortcomings as a driver. I'm sure I can make some fantastic drifts in this car if I have the time and the space to practice. But in the real world, there's lampposts, there's slippery roads, there's boulders, there's curbs and other pedestrians. So it gets way too cumbersome that way. To make any kind of real world cool kind of test with this car. So hopefully Toyota can invite me to a track day or something where I can really put this car to the test with some support. That said, going back onto the highway right now, if you really give it the beans like that, with the noise and the sensation of shifting gears, it is pretty impressive what you get out of this car. The smile factor is is enormous. It was the same with the GR Yaris. It's such a joy to do this kind of driving, even in like little bursts like this going onto the highway. It just makes you smile so much more. And I know that it's a typical journalist thing to always talk about the engagement of the car with the manual and the connection to the vehicle and all that nonsense, which is all made up to an extent. But I have to admit, like driving a lot of plug-ins and electric cars and so on, going back to this analog form of driving with a clutch pedal and a thing that you have to move around to change gears, it is cool and it is fun, and it does make you smile, and it does make you to an extent feel more connected to the vehicle. Power wise, we have the twin scroll 3-liter 6-cylinder engine with 340 horsepower, 500 Newton meters in a car weighing about 1,600 kilos. It's a quick car for sure, but it's very different than, for example, an electric car. I have a Tesla this week to test as well, a Tesla Model Y, which is just as fast, but it's not dramatic. There's no engagement. You know, you hit the accelerator like you hit a light switch and you fly, and it's all under control and all as well. This one obviously is a very different experience. First of all, the vehicle around you is so different, much smaller, much more cocooned, not as sterile as the Model Y is. And then you have the noise and the changing of the gears and the clutch action and so on, and it does not go faster per se, but it does give you that whole sensation of all your senses, of your eyes, your ears, your hands, your feet, and everything is working together. And that's cool, and that is a lot of fun. And I think that's also the reason why you buy this car, because it makes you smile, because you think it's cool, because you think it looks awesome, and because you want to have that driving fun. Because how many cars these days really offer that kind of sensation anymore? Now that sensation doesn't translate to the real world, because obviously you can't park this anywhere comfortably, you can't take your kids to school in it, there's nothing really you can take with you. So, you know, it's cumbersome in the real world. This is something that you can only really buy if you are either a collector or if you have access to some nice roads wherever you live, or maybe even access to a racetrack every once in a while doing track days. I think if that's your jam, then this is a fantastic car to own, but it has no place in the real world in day-to-day life, especially not at this price point, obviously. It makes no common rational sense. Cool that Toyota builds it. I think it's an awesome thing that this is in the Toyota lineup. Despite the BMW connection, or despite the Supra history, and despite the vague vents and so on, I think this is a very cool and engaging car. And it's funny, that car passing us now, you see people look at this, and obviously it's bright orange, so you stand out. And it's not even that people know that this is a Supra, but you see people look and they're like, hey, that's cool. They see the proportions of the car, they see the color, they hear the sound, they're like, whoa, hey, that's cool. And over the week that I've had this car now, and even today while filming, we had several people come up to us, just be like, give it a little thumbs up, or asking about it, or pointing at it. And that's also part of the fun. Like owning this car, sharing that passion with people that, you know, also appreciate a cool car. I think that's part of the whole experience as well. Obviously, we gotta mention the price of this Toyota Supra. Here in the Netherlands, at least, I have the price chart with me. It starts with the 2-liter 4-cylinder twin-scroll automatic with launch edition. That costs 76,795 euro, which is pretty okay. But considering this has 10,000 euros in VAT and another 16,000 euros in additional taxes, it gets quite expensive, because the car by itself in that 2-liter version is only 49,000 euro. There's also a premium version available for 80,000 euros, and then we move on to the 3-liter car. So that's a 6-cylinder twin-scroll turbo that we have with us today. That starts with the automatic, that's the premium version, which is 103,000. Then we move to the manual that we have, that comes in premium and also in the GT4 100th edition tribute version that we have with us today. That costs 107,395 euro here in the Netherlands on the road. And that is including 12,000 euros in VAT and 37,000 euros in additional road taxes. After a week with this Toyota Supra GT4 100th edition special version, what kind of conclusions can we reach? Well, the obvious ones are that this is not the car for your day-to-day use. It's too low, it's too stiff, it's too loud, you can't park it, you can't see out very well, it's not comfortable enough, it's dated, and so on and so on. But I don't think that's the reason why you buy this car. This is a car because you buy this car because you think it's cool, because you want that race car feel, because you want to use that power whenever you can. No. You buy this car because you think it's cool. Let's be honest, this is not a functional purchase, this is not a rational purchase. You buy this because you like the brand, you like the feeling, and you want to have that G-tuned race car. I said the same with the GR Yaris, which is basically a detuned rally car for the road. You don't buy that for any kind of reasonable argument, and it's the same here. There's nothing reasonable about this, it's just cool. And I think if you can afford this, and if you like that idea of taking this car out on the days where it's possible, potentially living somewhere where you have roads where you can actually use the power and the performance, that's fantastic. Go for it and enjoy it every day as much as you can. Plenty to criticize also in terms of the quality, and we can have the whole argument, like I said in the beginning, about the Z4 underpinnings. I don't think that's the point. It is just a cool car that is a joy to drive. You can debate if you need the 2-liter or the 3-liter or the manual or the automatic. I think that's a lot of personal preference. This one, the 3-liter, it sounds awesome, it drives great, so if you can afford it, why not go for this? That's all I got for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and a sub to the channel is always appreciated. Then you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And I'll see you guys in one of those ones. Cheers!